All right. Hi there, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Subculture Live. So, I am here tonight to announce something new. I have been listening to a lot of you about, how could we make Subculture Live? How could we make this podcast even better than it has been in the past? And one of the things that you guys have kind of spoke about, and one of the things that I have been wanting to do is kind of bring some more substance to the show. Like, my forte is I love highlighting the athletes, I love sharing your stories, but I wanted the show to be a little bit deeper and to maybe hit on some of those uncomfortable topics or some of those things, some of the topics that I tend to dodge, right? Especially when it comes to, um, you know, finding balance or just the emotions that take place, in our industry and just all of those things. So I came across Allen, and he reached out to me. I asked, would anybody be interested in participating in a segment? And I had a very specific need that I wanted to bring into the show. And when he reached out to me, I was like, yes, this is a perfect fit. I follow him on Instagram, and I love his content because it is such a contrast to what I do. Even though it's under the umbrella of health and fitness and bodybuilding, it's just so different. So he is going to be joining me. He's going to have a segment. It's going to be part of Subculture Live. Of course, he'll still be doing his own thing on his platform. But one of the things, like I said, one of the things I love about him is he brings professionalism. He's well spoken. He's easy to listen to. He's animated, and you're drawn in and you want to listen. And again, he puts out really good quality content. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. Here we go. Super excited for this. Hello, Allen. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm even better now after all of that introduction there. That was amazing. I feel way better about myself. Wow, jeez. We so thank you very, very much for that.
Of course, of course. So, we've only talked a few times, and I feel like we really connected. I forget to mention this to you guys. He's over all the way on the West Coast in California. So there's that.
That is
Yes.
correct. And I thought it was pretty interesting too that we're mutually Jacksonville Jaguar fans as well as that. So that was a pretty good connection part, right?
I know, I know. Hold on one second here. I want to
Hmm.
make sure I can find this. Hold on. Yeah, so Jacksonville, that was heartbreaking, wasn't it?
It was, but I mean, given that we've been the bottom feeders of and the laughing stock of the NFL for quite some time, it's that was a pretty refreshing season for us to even think that hey, we could have won that game against potentially the best team in the NFL right now. Especially after given that we've had 2 seasons where we've been the worst team in the NFL. It's a pretty huge contrast. And I'm pretty excited and pretty happy to be disappointed to say the least.
I know, and it sets us up for an incredible year next year. So there's that.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. So
So I introduced everybody, but I want you to introduce yourself to the audience and tell them what you bring to the table and what is different about yourself.
okay, well, outside of that amazing introduction, my name is Allen Katherman. I've spent over 13 years in the Navy as a nuclear engineer. I've moved around to different places in the United States. I lived everywhere from South Carolina to Rhode Island to New Mexico to San Diego to Vegas. I also had a couple of ventures into playing poker professionally as well as running some private games that got me into meeting some of LA's, I don't want to say like elite people, but definitely an exceptional group of people that you would otherwise not meet. From there, those kind of created some lifestyles. Those kind of created a lot of, I don't, for lack of a better way of saying it, degenerate lifestyles. As you can imagine, the poker world and the Vegas living lifestyle kind of promoted. I went through a few years of that. Finally, kind of just got tired of my BS, so to speak. Got tired of victimizing myself. Took ownership of my life, and then from there on out, I was able to within 2 years run a marathon, compete in an OCB natural physique competition. And since then, I've been working with kind of telling my story, kind of telling my journey of not only through like the Navy, through the degeneracy, but also my experience of being adopted, being marginalized, going through a divorce, all these kind of life events that people would otherwise victimize themselves through or keep themselves down from. And I found that by owning up to those adversities in your life and using the energy that it brings upon you, that you can make a better version of yourself. And pretty much what I promote more than anything else is to overcome your adversity and be as resilient as possible and just owning up to everything that happens to you or for you per se.
Yes, I love that.
Thank you.
Yes. And some of the topics that you have brought up on your own platform, why don't you just kind of give an example of some of the issues and some of the things that you do discuss that you find relate to us here in the natural bodybuilding world and beyond?
Okay, yeah. So one of the more common things that relate us all together is working out, right? And I know that sounds really vague, but the things that kind of drive us to work out is kind of what always has me drawn to connect with people and see what their why is. Like, I've had instances for me where I had the gym to work out at because I was feeling really insecure for my body. So at the time, it was a remedy for me to stop feeling insecure. There are times where I'm going through some kind of mental aggression. I just need to clear my head, or I just have all this kind of energy, or I don't know. So I go to the gym. It's a remedy. I think the biggest thing about the gym and about working out that connects us all together is that we all have a different journey. We all have a different story, a different why, and some of us that are crazy enough to compete, crazy enough to put ourselves through so many macros and this kind of things to get up on stage and get half naked and dehydrated and say, hey, this is what I look like. I'm always interested in those stories in particular because it takes a bigger, just I want to get abs, or bigger, I just want to do this to get to that point and put yourself to be judged by other people, all the while holding on to your self identity. And I know that ever since I've kind of stepped into this realm, stepped into this industry, the people that I've met, the stories and the journeys, as long as I'm there to share mine, a lot of people are willing to share theirs. And you find there's a lot of commonalities amongst all of us.
Yes, the stories you hear backstage, there is nothing that compares to some of the stories that I have heard, and the things that people have overcome to get to that point. So, yes, and another thing that you talk about really is like mental, like our mental health. And that's another thing that I always dodge, but it's been something that I've seen that you are really comfortable about talking about and bringing light to it. So I'm looking forward to
Right,
more
right.
about that.
Yeah, so one of the biggest events in my life, or we might as well start getting deep into this because now we're kind of harping into this, right? One of the deepest things in my life that happened that I learned significantly from is actually when I was going through my divorce and I was going through a point of feeling suicidal, feeling like I wasn't enough. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, right, kind of what you're saying with you can tell by your facial expression, like, oh my God, like let's not talk about it. Like, no, no, no. At this rate right now, the amount of men that commit suicide compared to women is like 4 to 1. In the UK, the biggest killer of men under the age of 39 is through suicide. And on top of
Wow.
that, the amount of PTSD and mental aggression that happens towards men right now is pretty significant, but nobody speaks about it. And what I try to do more than anything else is by sharing my experiences. Like when I was suicidal, like, hey, these things happen. Not feeling like you're enough happens. And it's okay because it's part of the entire experience. It's part of understanding how to appreciate the highs because you got to experience the lows. And one of the things that I see a lot of on media and a lot of see on mainstream is people trying to push these things off, acting like reality is a perfect linear path. but the reality it isn't, and like for example, the path to get up on stage for the very first competition. Everybody knows the highs, the lows, the roller coasters, the everything, right? Exactly. And I think that if we start highlighting that a lot more, highlighting the adversities, making those regular, that we can start, hitting and working on improving the mental health issues, the depression, the suicide rates. And that's just by normalizing these kind of conversations and bringing it to the forefront.
Yeah, yeah. And just to give you guys at home a reference, I spoke to him before we went live and I already said there's so many topics that I am so squirmish and like uncomfortable to talk about. So that's why he was reading my facial expressions. With no surprise, I'm sure.
Oh, of course not.
It's
And that's the thing and that's the
yeah.
thing is just we got to talk about these things a lot more.
Yes.
I've seen it, and the whole thing is I've seen it where, like in the Navy, it was a very toxic culture in the Navy, and you could just tell by the conversations everybody wanted to complain on deployment, everybody wanted to do this, and you realize a lot of people, it's not that they want to be sad or they want to feel oppressed, but sometimes the culture that they're living in and sometimes all that they're consuming, that's all they know. And it's by having these conversations, start normalizing, start opening them up that, hey, there's actually other avenues to think, but you got to open it up in that dynamic.
Yeah. Wow. It's like heavy stuff, but I think as you chip away at it, each week with a different topic and keeping it also current with what's happening, within our industry and the media and just things that are happening in your life. I think this is going to be an incredible segment. I think everyone will look forward to it and be able to relate to it in their own way, right? Sometimes when somebody shares a story, you don't have the exact experience, but you can still relate to it. So,
Correct.
yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm all about sunshine and rainbows and highlighting the athletes, but I'm looking forward to having you bring a little bit more substance to the show. And like I said, just hitting on those difficult topics and, anybody, if people have like suggestions or things that, um, you know, they would like to hear about, just message us and then maybe that's something that we could put together or I can help you put together. But I mean, the path that you're on and the content that you're creating is already on the path that I think a lot of people are craving or looking for as far as um, deeper meaning and uh, just hitting, like I said, just those uncomfortable topics that nobody wants to talk about. But, it helps. It helps to hear somebody else process it, right? That's how I feel. Maybe that's why I'm so drawn to your content. So in
Yeah,
that in
I
that refer
appreciate
in
that.
yeah, and I want to make sure everyone goes over and follows you on Instagram as well. You do
Well,
have a
it's Allen
YouTube.
K. Health real quick. It's Allen
Oh,
K.
there's a
Health.
K. See,
There's a K. It's
there's a
okay.
K.
It's
That's
it's
all right.
okay. We'll get this right. We'll have a few more shows. Don't worry.
So I'll drop the link in the comments. But you do have a YouTube channel as well.
I do. So
Amazing
it's
to
the
hear.
ShiftEQ podcast with Alan K. It's a
Okay.
lot of my podcasts that I started about, I want to say about a year and a half ago. Kind of just had a camera, just had a microphone, went from just wanting to go in there and talk. I guess I'm like, well, I talk to myself all the time and might as well start recording it, putting it up there.
Yeah.
And then I started just having a lot of meaningful conversations with people about health, about intention, your why, pushing yourself into a better version of yourself, and creating your own story per se. And then that kind of started helped me finding my voice, things that I like talking about, things that I identify with a lot of, which is, my story is a lot of self-victimization, a lot of these adversities where we have these big stories of what we say that they are, but it's not until we actually own it and start working through why there's such a drastic story in our heads is that we can actually find resolve and find, real resilience and find a better version of ourselves in lieu of it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what my journey has been. And ever since I've been kind of creating that content and meet people such as yourself who are out there trying to create the better message and empower people into the better versions of themselves through however
Yes.
metric. And so it's a pretty awesome journey to be on, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it helps bring our community together. So that's really, that's really what it's about. Like you said, you compete, and I want you to create this network. So when you are at your next event, maybe you even see more familiar faces than you would have prior to this venture. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you're going to have
I do.
be connected with more of our community. And that's what I love when you show up at a show and you already have social media can be such a positive and powerful thing as much as it can be toxic. But
Mm.
I like to feel like what we create and the community that we build is all positive. And I have had such a great experience with all of this, with this platform, with the natural bodybuilding circuit, and I want to continue that and continue to grow it. So
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
how long have you been in the natural bodybuilding community, and how long have you been doing this show for per se?
So I started Subculture Live back. I started doing a similar platform probably back in 2019. So I was kind of doing
Mhm.
live streaming and these live podcasts before COVID hit. So I was already kind of ahead of the curve when people really started digging into live streaming and podcasting and that type of thing. So it was just always important to me to share stories. I used to be a show promoter, and that's when I really said, you know what? I don't want the show to be over when the show is over. I want to continue to
Mm.
highlight these athletes and talk about these athletes and show what these athletes have accomplished long after the show is over. So that's when I kind of started doing interviews and things like that. And it spun into something bigger, which is Subculture Live, which also includes live streaming of events where it is sort of like a sports cast where I provide live commentary. I have pros join me at the media table. They're contributing to the live commentary. We have a live chat, multiple cameras, and it's really just a lot of fun. And again, it's about bringing the community together because I don't charge for those live streams. So anyone can
Mhm.
access them, not just the athletes and their friends and family, but I love when I see other athletes and pros from the natural bodybuilding world tuning in to watch, to either check out their competition or to cheer for their friends. Whatever it is, it's still connecting us in some way, shape, or form.
Very
So,
much so, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of amazing people in this community. That is for sure. Oh my god. So wait, so when's the before we started talking, you said you haven't competed in a couple of years. So when's the last time you competed then?
So 2018, yeah, 2018 would have been the last time I stepped on stage. And I had won my second Pro Universe Open and Masters figure title. And after that, yeah, that was my last show. So it's been a while.
Wow. And yeah, yeah, you end on top. There you go. That's
Yeah.
that's a good that's awesome. That is
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
Oh
So
man.
maybe one day I'll be back on stage, but we will see.
No, no, no. I think you will. I think you'll come back. Everybody likes a good comeback story.
I know, I know. And you will be on stage this year as well in Vegas, correct?
That is correct. So I
Exciting.
originally had a show in on March 11th for OCB, but now I pushed that to May because I'm actually moving in March. Interesting
Yeah.
story about that. So I have a new coach for this training cycle. This is my third training cycle, and I haven't competed, in over a year. And I'm still an amateur. I'm still aiming towards my pro card,
Of
but I
course.
have a new coach, and he has a different approach than my prior coach. So when we started cutting down for the show, I actually started losing my mind because I was cutting down way a lot quicker than I had anticipated. And this goes on me and both of us with our communication styles. I guess we didn't talk about what the overall goal was. So I was kind of freaking out, Like, hey, I'm gonna move at the same time. Like, you know what? There's another Vegas show 2 months
Yeah.
later. We're gonna we're gonna revisit this one, and yeah, that was a pretty interesting experience.
But that is a lesson for so many athletes that the stage will always be there. Like if you need to move it, and do life, and the stage will always be there. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah. If there's if I'm so happy that I'm 35 and have life experience, because 25-year-old Allen would have just did it anyways, and oh, I'm gonna do it, like I'm gonna be a man and go through it. And and the thing is, it's like, if the goal is to load as much as on your plate and then accomplish something, then sure. But
Right.
now that this is my third cycle up there, like the goal is to win, and there's no lower expectation. So why am I going to put myself into a spot where I'm already losing it mentally and emotionally? Like, I'm going to push it off. And mind you, maybe it was a small excuse to have like a bowl of cereal at the time. Maybe it was to just do whatever at the time. But it definitely, just like you said, the stage is always going to be there. It's always good to have life balance. And here's the thing: life balance supersedes anything else. If you don't have that down, everything else is definitely not going to work out. Trust.
I agree. I agree. So lots of exciting stuff happening this year, and we're going to try to do this up on a set day, like a Wednesday. Are you thinking we should go? Because you could always send me pre-recorded sessions, but I would love for you to join the vodcast live, because hopefully we'll have it. Some viewers that want to interact and maybe ask questions or put in their 2 cents, which I always love interaction with the viewers. But this is the format. It's going to be me. I'm going to interview an athlete, maybe run some highlights. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Then you're going to have your little segment, and then I may end with some pertinent information or just a quick little third segment. And the whole show will be short and sweet, no longer than 30 minutes, and on to the next week. That's my plan. What do you think? That we should be able to squeeze all that in?
I think so. I think also there's also that, hey, we're gonna stick with this intention, which is what we're gonna do, but then kind of see where it grows. Kind of see
Absolutely.
what ends up flowing with us. I mean, this is our first episode, and
I
we're already
know, so
talking about
excited.
interviewing people backstage, and already started talking about things like suicide. I just realized we went deep into that real quick.
Real quick.
But real quick, yeah, just yeah, that escalated quickly, right? But that, I guess, just see where it goes. Focus on a good intention. I think you and I are both on the same path of trying to promote better, self-investment, better versions of yourself in whatever dynamic, and see how
Yeah.
the message is better received.
And to be
So,
honest with you, a lot of the guests I have lined up, it's going to correlate very much with what you stand for, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised with some of the stories that you hear, and you'll actually be able to relate to a lot of them. Because I think one of my connections that I've made, and one of the questions I'm going to put out there is, as bodybuilders, are we addicts? Like, really, are we in some way, shape, or form? Because I'll be
oh,
honest with
absolutely.
you, I come across and a few of the people that I'm going to be interviewing in the next couple of weeks are recovering drug addicts. No joke. Like,
Mm.
to the point where one of them almost died, like coded, like yeah. So came back. It's a great story. It's a beautiful story. And now he is, on his way to earning his pro card, and he's an incredible athlete. But the story that how it all started is very dark and very sad. But I think that I think fitness is his new addiction, right? It's almost like he traded one for the other. And I've heard this story over and over. So, man, that's not a bad trade-off if you ask me. One, I would love to be addicted to health and fitness. Well, I guess I am in a lot of ways. I've been doing this for
Yeah.
a very long time. I'm much older than you. And I, I did my first show when I was 19, and I have been, in some way, shape, or form involved in the fitness industry since then. So, um,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, if it came down to paying for my gym membership or going out with my friends, it was always going to be gym membership needs to be paid first. Like that was a priority for me in my younger years because that was my escape. Like that was my entertainment. Like that was my release, you know, like I had to go to the
Mhm.
gym. So that was
Mhm.
it was never an option. It
Yeah.
was
Well, I
a
feel like
necessity.
I feel like we all have our things that we're addicted to or things that we are just trying to that we consume enough of to the point where it becomes a part of our identity per se. And from someone who used to drink all the time and drink this, that, and the other, I know that for me and a lot of men, they resort to substances or default to behaviors to actually feel something, right? Whether that's to feel validated, feel something, or even to numb it out, right? And you're chasing some kind of a high. And when you start, for men, what I've always seen when they work out, when they start investing in themselves, when they start creating, composition changes in their body, as well as seeing they look better in clothes, it's a dopamine high that you
Oh
just
yeah.
get, like, wow, I keep on doing better, and that high is way more addicting than something that drugs and everything else can do. And what I have always seen, yeah, is a lot of those stories, and I'm grateful for that guy for sharing a story too, is that you see the high just change. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the seeking of dopamine and seeking of transforming yourself into a better version is way more addicting than the highs that you can get from other things. That's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're gonna share more on all of this, and it's gonna all come full circle. And I think people are really gonna love what we put together. But tonight was all about having you on and everybody getting to meet you. I wanted to be able to introduce you and explain why you caught my eye and why I think you're a good fit for this brand and for subculture and just for the natural bodybuilding world in general. I think you add a lot of value, a lot of great content, and yeah. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, thank you. As am I. I'm very excited for where this is going to go. And I guess for everybody that's watching, yeah, please submit all your feedback, submit what you guys want to see in this. I guess we're all going to grow together and see what happens with that. And then most importantly, of course, go Jags.
Go
So
Jags. Next year. It's our year.
next year.
Oh man. So yeah, I'm gonna leave my it was always the Jags. I think I should leave it up for the rest of the
You
remainder
should.
of the year for the remainder of the year, just for, you know, good juju.
Well, of course, of course. This is a beautiful season, like, and of course, typical Jags fan, we're contemplating how a 9-8 season is going to be memorable for the rest of our lives, but it really is though. It's great. It really is.
Yes, it is. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I'm so glad you came on tonight. Again, we will try to be doing these on Wednesday, like bob and weave though, if we go Tuesday, Thursday, whatever. But Wednesdays we'll shoot for, just to keep the audience consistent, keep some type of consistency for them. But yeah, I'm excited, and I'll be announcing my next few guests here this coming week.
All right. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you very much, and looking forward to the future ones that we have going. So
All
next week.
right. All right, Alan, and
All
I
right.
want to remind everybody to follow you. The link to your Instagram will be in the comments on Facebook and on YouTube, so they can find you there.
Right, right. So yeah, Instagram, AllenK.health, and the ShiftEQ podcast with Alan K on YouTube, and Spotify, Apple Podcast. The Instagram, I have like a lot of 1 minute snippets of reels about things like why there's tryptophan in oatmeal and how that can affect your diet. For more on that, just definitely go on there. Thank you.
Yes, awesome. All right, well, have a good night.
You too. All right,
All
guys.
right,
Bye.
bye. Bye, everybody.